Hi there, Teresa Aker here from Success Diaries with Teresa Aker. I am thrilled today to introduce you to Isabelle Lafleche. She's a wonderful author. How you doing, Isabelle?
I'm doing great, super great
I'm
today.
so I'm so glad you're here. Now, I'm going to do a quick bio about you, and then we're going to come back, okay?
Yes.
Isabel is a best-selling author, and she certainly is. I've read a few of her books. Her novels are meant to be inspiring and are filled with deep insights about the corporate world as well as the dark side of fashion industry. She's also here to protect the planet through encouraging a more conscious way of life and consumption. She's passionate about sharing the spiritual teachings of the great masters in her own unique, jazzy, whimsical, vivacious, and soulful style. She loves to guide crowds, big and small, to release the past and embrace the future with grace. We have so much to talk about. Isabel, I just love everything you do.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I love your energy. You have such an amazing energy. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. I actually talked to Isabel a long time ago. She wrote a beautiful book. And do you have it in front of you, the one we're talking about?
Yes, so I wrote a series. The first one was entitled J'adore New York. This was my first book ever,
It was.
published back in 2010. And then this was the sequel, J'adore Paris, where the main character ends up going to Paris and she goes through a series of adventures and works in the fashion industry. Had a lot of fun writing and researching these books. Since written 9 books, including this book here, which is more of a self-help book. It's my story. It's called Splendeur. This is in French, but I will be translating it into English. And I've written books for teenagers as well, a series for teens, and a self-help book for young women as well.
Beautiful. You know what? I read your book. I love your writing. Now you talk about energy. You are always doing something spiritually, energetic. You just radiate such love and wonderful caring about people. And I just love that about you. So let's talk about now, and I know you're a great author, but let's talk about, I noticed you're doing the spiritual work with people. Can we talk about that? Because I just love that.
Oh, sure. Sure. We can talk about that.
Good. So
Do,
so I see you on Facebook and your social network and you're doing spiritual things. Let's talk about that. Tell us how that got started.
sure. Back in, I would say 2015, I had two major spiritual encounters in my life.
Okay.
In 2004, I was walking on the street in New York. I was working as a lawyer at the time in New York City, and I was stopped on the street by a woman. And at the time, I was a little frightened by her. She told me she was a psychic and that she had a very important message for me. And at the time, I didn't really know anyone who was a psychic. I didn't know anything about that. And so I was a little frightened. But to make a very long story short, this woman had an important message for me. And she says, I would like for you to follow me home. And my intuition told me to follow her. I could have ended up, Teresa, in a garbage bag in the Hudson River, but
Right.
I followed her home in the middle of New York City. She was wearing this dark coat, and I don't know, there was something about her. She told me that it had to do with my life purpose, and I was looking for my life purpose. I was at a time in my life where I was looking for answers. So while I followed her home, she had a crystal ball. It was like a movie. And she asked me, what did you want to do as a child? She said, you're working in an office right now. You're working in a gray cubicle. What did you want to do as a child? And I said, I wanted to become an actress. She said, okay, what else? I always loved fashion, maybe a fashion designer. And she said, no, there's something else. What about writing? I said, oh, yes. When I was younger, I used to write the stories, and my grandmother would always tell me, Isabel, read me or write me and read me a story. So I would write these stories for her, and I always loved that. She says, there's a reason for it because you were supposed to publish books, but you just didn't follow your calling. This is your calling in life. So she said, go home, leave New York. This is not your home. You'll never be happy. And start writing. So this was my first spiritual encounter. This woman was very connected to spirit. I think my grandmother, my deceased grandmother, may have had something to do with this encounter. I don't know, but this woman changed my life. So I moved back to Canada, started writing, and wrote my first novel, J'adore New York. That ended up being a national bestseller. So this woman was definitely on to something. And then I started writing this book series about the dark side of the fashion industry and how it's an industry that is quite polluting. And I wrote about some serious topics, but in a funny way, and got a lot of attention, which I'm really grateful for. And in 2015, I felt called to attend a spiritual retreat. I went to Kripalu, which is a center for meditation in the United States in Massachusetts. It's quite popular. And I just felt this calling to go there. It was a weekend seminar organized by Gabrielle Bernstein, a famous author and spiritual teacher. And the whole weekend, I was mesmerized by what she was talking about. She's talking about these spiritual concepts and the new era, the era of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius. And I was drinking her words the whole time. And this prompted the beginning of a series of events that led to my spiritual awakening. And it was quite a rock and roll time. I had to make some big changes in my life. I also started feeling energy in my hands, and the fact that I could transmit energies with my hands and do Reiki. All kinds of things happened to me in the space of a couple of years. So I became myself a spiritual teacher, particularly in Quebec, and started teaching and sharing teachings on my YouTube channel, giving lectures, conferences, workshops about these things. I felt really guided to do this at the time. And so I wrote a few books on this topic. And I also have been doing coaching. So many people who have gone through this awakening process have contacted me for some personal guidance because a lot of millions of people are awakening right now on the planet. It's a beautiful thing where I think the planet is shifting from a dense, lower vibration to a higher vibration of love, light, consciousness, and joy. But it can be a little bit challenging at times, having gone through it myself. So I guide people, I do coaching, and I help people navigate these changing times that we're all in at the moment.
That is fantastic. So can I ask you, I was listening to what you said, and so are you talking about like guided meditations, things like that, where you're sitting down with people, or is it a spiritual idea where it's an awakening where you sit down with someone and just like the lady who talked to you, do you feel what the people are, perhaps an aura? And I don't know, but is it a feeling from them? Because I find it fascinating. Honestly, I've been to soothsayers. And I've been to people who are spiritual guides in life. And I'm not sure if it's because they said it was going to happen or if it was self-fulfilling prophecy or if you're just in tune to things. But you definitely had something happen to you. I went to one also who told me this would certainly happen. And I thought, no way, it's not going to happen. And guess what? It did. And I didn't know if it was something I fulfilled or if because they said it. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, it can be a little bit of both, but
Yeah,
I believe that I've befriended and I have friends who have clairvoyant gifts, who can see things. So I believe that there are certain people who are clairvoyant, who can see things before they happen,
right.
people who connect with spirit, people who have passed on. A lot of psychic mediums
Sure.
connect with our deceased family or friends. So I would say for me, I'm very intuitive and I help people navigate, for example, someone who is in a career that they are unhappy with because they have some gifts, they have some talents, they have a
Yeah.
message they want to share, which is something that I have done. And I always tell people it's not a and or. So you can have a job, you have a career, but you can also on weekends, you can write books, you can launch a show. Look at you,
Mhm.
you're launching a show. It's amazing. You can do
100%.
things. It doesn't have to be or, it can be and because we're multi-dimensional beings. We have multitude of talents. There's no age limit. I see all these women on TikTok doing modeling in their 80s, which is
Really?
fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. They are so inspiring to me. We are now in a time where people should embrace joy. What brings you joy? Is it cooking? Is it fashion? Is it acting? Is it singing? Sing. Just, it doesn't matter anymore. We grew up in a society where we were pushed to have one career for 40 years and that's it. You retire and then boom. No, no, we are multidimensional beings. We all have gifts, we all have talents. And the more joyful we are, the more happy we are, the more passionate you are, you raise the vibration of the planet with your gifts, with your joy, with your passions. And there's no age limit for it, and there's no limit. You can get up early, an hour early, and do what it is that you love to do. And you go to your job and you come home and you finish, or you spend a couple more hours passionate on what it is you are passionate about. So some people it's tarot cards, some people it's cooking. It doesn't matter. Photography. I help people awaken to this connection to joy, to disconnect from depression, to disconnect from chains that bind them. Sometimes we are born in families where it's not looked positively. They don't look positively on your gifts, your talents, your joy. So you feel stuck. And so I help people get unstuck and I help people connect with what makes them happy. I push them a little bit. A lot of people come to me, they want to write books, and I'm a good coach because I push and I push hard. But a lot of people
Yes.
who have I have coached have published books, so I'm very proud of that. I have a strong track record, but I'm a tough coach. I'm a tough coach because when I see talent, I feel as though it's my duty to push a little bit.
I think that's so important. And that's what makes you so successful because you're right. You have to push a little bit, but you may be harder on people, but you've lived, you walk the moment, you know what you're doing. You have tools in your box. You're able to say, okay, these are the tools you're going to need, and this is what you use. But honestly, you have compassion and you really want to see people succeed. And that's what makes you successful because you're helping them. And that's a big factor. I also want to come back, if we can circle back to when people are looking for authenticity, looking for what they really want to do inside. I agree with you. I think we've gotten a little, it's just my opinion, we've gotten away from that. We were driving to work and long days and giving everything we had to perhaps work, then trying to put our families together and doing all of these. We got away from what joy is, I think, a little bit. So even musicians and writers, actors, things like that, they just didn't go into those fields because they just felt, oh, I just don't have the time. But I think it's so important inside to find something that gives you joy because then everything else flows together. Is that not right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And sometimes it can be a little messy. It's making me think of a book that I read from a friend of mine. I think I have his book here. Where is it? It'll come back to me if I find it in my bookshelf. He basically is a musician and he's written also most of his songs and he gets up at 5 in the morning and he has a family, a young family, kids.
yes.
And he says it can be a little messy at times being creative, but you have to make time for it. Nobody's gonna go come at your home and force you out of bed and push that button, that creativity button. You have to do it yourself. And so life sometimes can be a little challenging. We have obligations, we have all kinds of things, but it's critical for our well-being to put some time aside, to make the time for these passions, because this is what brings contentment. True contentment, Teresa, I used to look for contentment in expensive handbags. I used to look for contentment in things outside of me. And I lived in New York. I lived the big high life. I could buy whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And I thought that was happiness. But at the end of the day, it wasn't fulfilling. What's fulfilling is expressing our creativity, our creative gifts. If I spend a day or half a day writing stories or whatever it is, poem or anything that's creative, I feel so much happier. So it's not to say that you can't have some nice things. As I love fashion, I love going to thrift stores and vintage stores. I'm not saying that those things are wrong. It's when you look for happiness and fulfillment in them, as opposed to the real creativity. I love expressing my creativity through fashion. I find great stuff in thrift stores. That's a way for me to express my creativity. And I find it so exciting when I find a good thrift store find, way more than going to a big retail store and buying it full price. I've become a hunter in that regard. Long story short, I think that it's important to embrace our creativity, to make time for it, to really make sure that part of ourselves is fulfilled.
I feel like this is a time of self-love. And when I say that, I mean that very literally, because I think we all got away from that too. If you don't center yourself and find that self-love, find something that makes you feel good inside, then you don't have to, you know how we have a lot of people that say, oh, if I just had that bigger home, or if I just had that job, I'd be happy. Or if I just found that man or woman, I'd be happy. And honestly, it comes from the inside out. So when you're talking like that, I'm thinking she's absolutely right. Isabel, you're bringing out of people their love for themselves and their joy inside, not outside, inside, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I think to pour, people use this expression these days, pour into yourself. Okay, so what exactly does that
Yeah.
mean? Pour into yourself. And I've been doing it for quite a while now. And to pour into yourself is to listen to your intuition. So take time for silence. Make some time to be silent on your own, whether it's going through for a walk in nature, meditation, a yoga class, and see what comes up. You will probably get some ideas for for example, in your case, ideas for guests on your show. If you go to a yoga class or just a stretching class, because you are switching off that part of your brain that always wants to go push, push, push. We are intuitive beings. We get intuitive messages to call someone, to connect with someone, to do something. These are things that come up when we are relaxed, when we are in a receptive mode. And our society has conditioned us to always be on the go. That used to be me. I used to be a lawyer. I worked in New York. I was on the go 12 hours a day, and then in the evenings, go entertaining clients. It's just always on. And you cannot receive messages from your higher self in that state. It's critical to take some time on the weekends or even in the mornings to meditate, to pray, to just go for a walk and really listen to the messages that are coming forth. And that's when you get the idea for the best-selling book. That's where you get the idea for a TV show, for the documentary you want to film, or the great cooking recipes you want to create, because our intuitive nature is very powerful. It's always guiding us to what's right. And sometimes our ego shuts it off because we're so busy doing, pushing. And I invite people to relax a little bit into the receptive side, the feminine side, where you get the ideas for some to create something wonderful.
Beautiful, honestly said, Isabel. Now, I know do you do courses or do you just have gatherings? What do you do to help people? Or is it one-on-one or is it together? What do you do?
All of the above.
Okay.
So I do one-on-one coaching. I do that for people who have gone through what I've gone through, frankly, an awakening. They wake up one day, they're unhappy with their lives. They start seeing angel numbers all over the place and 111, 222. They wonder what's going on. I'm not happy in my marriage. I'm not happy in my job. I just want to cry and roll in a ball. And I said, okay, I understand. Been there. So that's one of the things that I do. I do guidance, one-on-one guidance. I also do group events. As I was mentioning to you earlier, I love doing workshops, big and small. And we have a lot of fun in my workshops. I put on some good music and I try to allow people to release negative, toxic emotions so that they can connect with their higher power. So it's a mixture of both. I do lectures in schools, universities. I do them in local libraries as well, and church basements, restaurants. I've done it in many different places, and I really love it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I know you have a web page and you have different areas, and we're going to make sure all your information's here. But I have a question for you. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Oh,
I know.
interesting. I see myself coming to see you. That's for sure. I want to continue doing what I'm doing. I really love it. I'm looking to grow my platforms. I am looking to grow my reach, my books. So just continue on doing what I'm doing, help as many people as I can, speak, do some public speaking, also continue talking to students. I love going into schools and just trying to have the biggest impact I can on the greatest number of people.
Oh, that's fantastic. And absolutely, I hope you come here. We're going to come together and meet up and have, and we'll see, we gather some people together. That's wonderful. Honestly, Isabel, I'm so looking forward to that because you have such a warmth and caring about you. And instantly, I knew that about you. Maybe that's we draw in people that we feel that from them. And you certainly do. And you just shine and you have this around you, this beautiful glow. So I'm really happy that I met you. And absolutely, we're going to do this. If somebody wanted to reach out right now, what is the best place to get you, Isabel? How could they
Uh,
find you?
they can find me on my Facebook page. They can also write me an email. My email is isa, my last name Lafleche at outlook.com. They can find me through my website, isabellelafleche.net. And they can ping me on my Instagram. I'm very flexible. I have people writing me all over the place. I have people writing me on Facebook, reaching out on my Instagram, and I also have people sending me emails through my website.
Beautiful. Okay. So now we know where to get a hold of you. Is there a book coming now? Are we writing one now? A new one?
I'm always writing. I'm always writing. I can't disclose too much about what's in the works, but I'm always
Okay.
working on some. I'm always working on something, Teresa.
I know that. I think I asked you when we were first talking about the show, and what country are we living in now, Isabel? So we never know, right? You're always doing things. What's amazing about you, honestly, and I follow you on Facebook because you're a Facebook friend too, and I see you always you're going into thrift stores and you're always doing something, and that's the energy off you, and that's what I think why people are drawn to you and are able to release up their own energy because you're a trusting soul and you're a really good person. So thank you for everything that you do and helping everyone. So, and thank you
Oh,
for being
thank
on my
you.
show today.
My pleasure, Teresa. You have great energy too. It's contagious.
It is. And I have one more question. Will you come back and see us again on the show?
Of course, as many times as you invite me.
Thank you. We have so much more to talk about. So to everyone, this was Isabelle Lafleche. She has wonderful books out. Oh, we can get the books on Amazon, correct?
Correct, yes.
I want to mention that and anywhere else they can get the books or just Amazon.
Yeah, people can find my books on Amazon. They can find them at Chapters, Indigo, all the Indigo bookstores in Canada. They can find them in Grenoble in Quebec and most bookstores basically around Canada.
Okay, wanted to make sure we had that. So I'm going to make sure all Isabel's information is here for everyone. Do reach out, and if you can't get her, reach out to me. I'll make sure she gets your message, but you'll be able to get her in contact with her very easily. I'm really grateful that you came on today, Isabel. To everyone else, this is Teresa Aker from Success Diaries with Teresa Aker. I hope you're all having a great day. Please subscribe to my channel and to Isabel's. We appreciate that. Have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you all very soon. Bye-bye now.